Let's give you a minute to finish up. Calling the September Finance Committee meeting order. Legislator Perkins is excused for tonight's meeting. First order of business, the agenda needs to be amended to include 2 highway positions under the vacancy review committee. The copies that you all have on your desks. May I have a motion to amend the agenda to 2 vacancies? Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion carried. Moving on to the second motion we have here is make a motion to approve the amended agenda. We have a third of a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now I need to approve for the minutes. We have approval for the minutes.
So moved.
So thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving into the first resolution is for solid waste. This is for modifying the 2023 budget for solid waste equipment repair, recycling, tipping fees, and building property maintenance. May I have a motion? First, Bert, second, Ms. Curran. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. The resolution that you have in front of you is that to deal with the additional costs that we are going to incur in the 2023 budget, and dealing with the impacts either with the increased revenue or moving funds from various areas in the budget to cover associated costs with recycling increases, repairs. Speak to the equipment repairs. We have had a significant turnaround of employees in our maintenance shop, and we had to send a lot of the repairs out of house, which increased the cost. A multitude of items led to the increased cost, but looking to try to cover all these within the existing budget by making modifications.
Any questions? Mr. Smithers?
Yeah, did we already approve this guard shack cost previously, or is this? Did we not do that?
We approved going out to bid for that, that's correct. But we do have increased costs that were associated with that were rolled into the budget. And repairs at the Cena transfer station, we had significant structural steel repairs that were needed on the tip floor area. The area that funnels the trash down into the trucks, a lot of that structural steel had to be repaired this year. That was not anticipated.
If I could, at the governor transfer, was the equipment that wasn't working, has that been repaired? So that's fully functional now? There was some problem there.
Well, yes and no. We've got the machine, a replacement machine that we took out of the Ogdensburg and Cena transfer stations, and we were making another replacement for the governor machine, but the foundation underneath the machine is also faulty. So in the 2024 budget, we are planning a capital project for the replacement of the tower that goes underneath the material handling crane that goes in the facility. So a replacement material handling crane is in the maintenance shop being rebuilt. We're making it work out of other 2 that we took out of service and replaced to replace the one in Governor. So, but the foundation needs to be replaced because it's up basically on stilts over the height of the truck, and that steel needs to be repaired. So that's why that was red tagged out. So long story short, that'll be a capital project in 2024.
Do you have a follow-up to that? Mr. Forsyth? Go, Mr. Forsyth.
I'm in a hurry.
Oh, go ahead. You got it.
On the staff shortages, Are we still short, or what's the status on the number of employees there? And
We're doing pretty well on the, on solid waste staffing.
so the shortage has been rectified.
Other than military leaves, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don, a couple months ago, we moved some money in solid waste. Wasn't it like 400,000 or something like that?
That's correct. We did.
Okay, so this is a second term. I've got this list of bills for the big providers, some of the big haulers in the county, and two stick out substantially,
Yes.
which would cover this cost. Where are we at with that?
One of the powers that's way toward the bottom of the list, which is the largest one, is making payments on the principal every month, sometimes a few $1,000s over and above what the interest is on that account. So they're paying cash for every transaction at the gate, so they're paying for today's, and they're making payments on the credit, and the interest accrued, and also the debt that has been approved.
So they have some sort of payment already.
We do not have a payment arrangement, but a verbal agreement would have, they are making.
I just don't know how we got to this substantial. That just seemed to be keep going on and on and on. Meanwhile, we're shipping 650,000 roughly in the last couple times. So that's the people using them are eventually going to pay it. It's an enterprise fund, so eventually these increased costs are going to be pushed off to the taxpayer utilizing it.
Part of the issue with the previous transfer of funds is that the capital project that we were doing in Ogdensburg, not all the funds were transferred to cover the cost. They should have been encumbered in that. And I would have preferred it to been a capital account, and that way it cycles over from one year to the next and not go back into basically the fund where we would have to take it out. So that was part of the issue with that other resolution that you speak of. And a lot of it was, the recycling and fuel and all the other shortages that we've had. But this resolution does address that within the existing budget. So.
Okay, but I hope you hear my concerns, because this is concerning to me.
Yes, sir. I agree.
We have a policy in place for the future to prevent these kinds of running up the bill in place.
And Mr. Reagan, that is an item that we have discussed, and we plan to bring that forward to have a policy that is a strict policy to be followed and forward.
Thank you.
So.
Don, I'd just like to remind you that over the past few months, that myself and you also have been the recipient of many calls from folks interested in the condition of the Black Lake Road and the Eeyore Road. And I've got to tell you that it's been a 180 since you folks visited out there and almost finished up those two roads. And I got to tell you, it's like driving on a runway. It's a beautiful road. You folks did a great job. And I think that this board ought to be extending their thanks and their good wishes to your people that did the work out there. It is an excellent job. And I use that road regularly, both of them. And I've talked to people, many of them out there, they have nothing but praise for the work that was done out there. So what a great job you guys have done. So, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Mr. Nisha.
Thank you for you reminding me.
I had as much the same experience on Sunday. I had one of my constituents wanted to let me know and wanted me to pass along what a great job that they thought the county highway department had done on County Route 17. And normally you don't hear. Normally, when someone wants to talk to you about the roads, it's not about, oh, you've done a good job. So there's two I'm aware of. But we're quick to we're quick to call you up short, but we also we're not as quick to compliment.
The staff, you know, a number of very talented individuals that work at the department. A lot of hard work is done into that, so I'm sure they will appreciate the comments from the board as well to the staff. So that's a great thing, and thank you for recognizing the efforts of our staff. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have discussion for the Ogdensburg Transfer Station, temporary improvement projects.
Yes, thank you. The temporary structure is in place. And the scale company is scheduled to come in Thursday. That's a tentative schedule. Hopefully the contractor can make it to that schedule on Thursday and have that operational this week. So the temporary scale facility will be operational by the end of the day.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you there. So we have for, again, going with the Mr. Chamber for Highway, authorizing the chair to sign contracts for the 2022 Bridge New York project funded with Bridge Formula Program off system for County Route 35, Slab City Bridge over Trout Brook. We have a motion. Start a second.
Yes, thank you. This is a project that is going to be funded with 95% federal funds that are passed through the state of New York and 5% county. The bid opening is scheduled at this point for in October. So hopefully you will have a project to award at your November meeting. The County Road 35 project is a safety project as well as a bridge replacement project. The intersection with Potsdam Morley Road and County Road 35 will be reconstructed at this location to improve intersection safety as well as a bridge replacement. There is the stream will be realigned and totally new structure, new intersection. So a huge improvement project. So glad to see this project going. We've had it designed a few years, waiting for the funding to come along so we can construct.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign contracts for the 2022 Bridge New York project funded by the Bridge Formula Program off system for Lazy River Road over Grass River. The motion. Each second by Mr. Stern. Thank you.
Yes. Same situation with this to Bridge New York funding, 95% federal passed through the state of New York with a 5% county match. This is a total bridge replacement at this location and a slight realignment, going from a 3-span bridge to a single span bridge. Again, the safety enhancement is quite substantial on this project as well. In this location, unfortunately, a short time ago had a fatality. So the geometrics of the roadway approach roadway, the rail system, and the bridge are all being upgraded to standards. Again, the bid opening will be in October. It should be coming to your board for approval at the
Any discussion? Those opposed? Sorry about that.
Help them out there, Kelly.
Okay. Going into the third one here is amending resolution number 171-2022, authorizing the chair to sign the agreement between the Department of Highways and the Black Lake Chamber of Commerce for information center to be built and maintained on the county material storage site of the town of Morris, to include construction of a parking lot. Have a motion. First, Ms. Burns, second by Ms. Chadwick. Sir.
Yes, sir. May Bill Dash now be recognized to respond to this resolution for the Morristown Chamber of Commerce.
Evening. Came to you before, we had the Black Lake Chamber, we wanted to build an information center on the Black Lake near Edwards. And took the spot, obviously, we kind of like the county land that's right there, just southwest of Edwardsville. Quiet area, it's still in the 35-mile zone. And you have agreed, and we moved forward with the plans to build a 16 by 16 information center there. Bulk of the storage in front is for information, and in the back there's some storage for material that can be applied to the various booths inside. And this is for pretty much for the Black Lake community and any members of the Black Lake Chamber. St. Lawrence County Chamber obviously is a member. We do promote all the materials that they have, whether it be in this new building or any of the area. Well, we go to Buffalo, for instance, to the shows, and this year we're going to go to Syracuse as well by Rush Outdoors, and then also the Harrisburg show, which is one of the biggest ones that we've ever seen. It's a 9-day show, and we always take St. Lawrence County's materials with our materials, and we have people at shows. So what happened with it? We went to the Morristown Planning. They wanted a 75-foot setback from the road, which would push us right back into the county property next to the stone pile. Make a lot of sense to me, but I mean, that's the regulation. And so in order to continue with the design that we had, we submitted an application to the county planning. That was returned to the local group, and then I had to file a variance, the variance committee. And they their primary interest is offsite parking. I didn't think it was such a big deal there. It's in the 35 zone. There's 20 feet from the white line to the fence or the front of the building. There's plenty of room there. And so we agreed to approach all of you to see if we could use an extra 40 by 50 spot right next to the building for 1 handicap and 3 additional parking. With the idea and the understanding, anybody that's towing a boat, not going to get in there. You know, they're going to park out front. And there's lots of room up front. And the variance board, they were not concerned about the boat trailers, boats, and vehicles of that nature. They just wanted some on-street park. That's why I'm here to ask your approval to use an additional, approximately 40, it's marked out. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but it's marked out there. Approximately 40 by 50 spot. We'll have to cut some of the brush toward Edwardsville. In order to fit that in.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, that Harrisburg shows better. Get ready for that one. 9 days on
9
concrete.
days.
Don, my question's for Don. What do we use the lot for now? Anything really? Is it going to be in our way?
We basically use this for material storage. With shoulder material, and County Road 6, we're gonna be fixing the shoulders. We use that as a stockpile area, so then we can load out quicker and use it right out the job site or any other project that we have in the area in the backside we use, just as a stopgap.
Okay.
So,
So there won't be any problem with maneuvering around it and trucking back and then nothing.
no, because we'll enter on the other side of the building into the lot. There should be any issue. I can't foresee more than 2 vehicles getting pamphlets at a time there anyway, but and it's a very sporadic use that we would use that, we're stockpiling materials there now, but we might not stockpile there for 2 years after. So,
Okay, so there's plenty of room.
yep, no issue. Yeah, there's a lot of area on that.
Any other discussion? Mr. Reeves?
First off, I want to welcome you back to these chambers, Bill.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, Bill was the highway superintendent for many, many years and did an outstanding job for the county. And he's always been very active in a lot of projects to improve St. Lawrence County. And this is just one of many. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for all you do for Black Lake and for Waddington and for St. Lawrence County, and your efforts are noticed and appreciated.
I'd like, what in our agreement, the basic agreement, it's not in writing yet, but it will be, we are fencing in this parking area in the back of the building, so there'll be no access into the county property beyond our little spot right there. And then also an agreement, if for some reason, I can't imagine, but if some reason the Black Lake Chamber doesn't use the building anymore, then I'd be,
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have authorizing the chair to sign an annual service agreement with Train. Heating, vending, and air conditioning services with the Department of Highway. And motion. Third, second. Mr. Hall, thank you.
Yes, this is a agreement that we've been doing the last several years with Trade. They are under a contract with New York State Office of General Services. So we utilize that contract to service our various heating and air conditioning components around the various buildings for highway.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next up, we have real property. First one on the list here is authorizing collection of omitted taxes. Motion. Third, second. Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Evening.
The first resolution before you is one for omitted taxes, the collection of omitteds. Omitted taxes have to do with when there is a transfer of title from a property sells that often have exemptions on them. Under real property law, the property assessor should charge back those difference in those exemptions to the new property owner. It's just as allows for that billing to be done on the town tax bill.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the adoption of equalization rates for 2024 county taxes. The motion, support that. Second by Ms. Kern. That's it.
Second resolution is also a yearly resolution for you with. This is just showing what the equalization rates are for each town, each municipality within the county. As you can see here, there are three municipalities that are at 100% assessment this year. They are the city of Ironburg, town of DePoister, and also the town of Pitcairn. That just means that those three did evaluations this for the 24 assessment role and completed them and are at 100% assessment. Last year at this time, there were 12 municipalities that were at 100% assessment. So it just goes to show in 1 year's time how much that market has changed and in this case brought the equalization rates down for these other towns. So last year was 12, now it's 3. We do have 3 towns that plan on doing revaluations for next year. They are the towns of Madrid, Stockholm, and Hirschville. So they follow through and do revaluations. They will then be at 100% for next year.
Sorry.
Thanks, Bruce. When I was looking at, I was surprised at how many towns were so far out of whack. Traditionally, the towns have been much better about keeping their assessments in line. Do you have any thoughts on what's happening out there?
I think just the market in general, the last couple of years has gone up so much that it's the state's telling us that last year it went up another 8%. And I think it's showing that most of these other towns have dropped 6, 8, some have dropped 10% in 1 year alone. That's typically unheard of. The only way they can get that back is to do a revaluation, either in-house or have a contractor do what the city of Ironburg did. And that would then bring these back in line, but then they have to maintain them each year to stay at 100%.
So
I can, you're saying the housing values in St. Lawrence County are rising dramatically?
Yes, they are, and the state then does an analysis to see what the sale price is versus what they're assessed at, and that differential in there creates that factor of the yield rate. So, same.
And to what do you attribute the increase in real estate prices in the county?
I think the country has seen just this increase during and after COVID that are buying, coming into the area. Some local folks as well are buying these properties and paying well above assessed value. And that's what
Some of the real estate people that I've talked to have told me that have been seeing since COVID, and I saw it myself at my business, people coming in from all over the country buying properties. People from California, people from just all over the country who look at our properties in St. Lawrence County and just feel like with the opportunities to telecommute, to work from home, to Zoom, that moving into a rural area and bringing your own job with them, that this is the time when we're seeing a lot of new people coming into the county.
I think I've heard a lot of what you're saying as well. talking to a couple of realtors over the last couple of years, during COVID, was the fact that, that was the case. Folks were coming in and more or less, quote unquote, money was almost being thrown at the realtor, to close on a property. Wasn't uncommon for properties to sell for well above asking price. And I think that we're not seeing it as much now. But also the stock of property, the stock of homes out there, the housing stock is not. Each year, less and less, I believe, are selling, but they're selling higher than assessment. And if the assessor, that town, doesn't keep those values, assessments up to what those market prices are, then that's when we start seeing the rates fall off like here.
And I have to wonder, it seems, for many years, we have sung the blues up here that, our area has been overlooked and forgotten, and that it's difficult to attract new people and new jobs and new businesses. But I know in Ogdensburg, we're seeing a lot of new people. A gentleman who works at Microsoft bought a property in town. It seems like we're seeing a lot of new projects coming into the county, and I think in the long term, we'll see its effect in our per capita incomes, our housing stock, and our census.
Thank you, Bruce. Just speaking for the town of Lisbon, I think I remember the last time they tried to do a reval, and I think you remember it pretty well as well. It's not usually real popular, and if you don't have the full board support, people get left out on the line, I think is what happens. But I look at it a little different. I'm actually seeing price reduced on some of the sales of late. The riverfront, of course, sky's the limit, but I've driven by a couple houses of late that price reduced. We looked at a couple places in Alabama, price reduced. So I think the interest rates eventually are catching up and driving the market back to reality. But a lot of our buddies have said for years, we're the last cheap land. You go buy ag land here and then you go down to Jefferson County and pay twice. So I think it's starting to change a little bit, but Jim's right. There's a lot of people moving in the area. They sell the house for $1 million, pay $700,000 for the house here, and living the dream. But it's a tough one. But yeah, the reval is always a tough topic on boards. And good luck with it.
So,
I would expect these rates to be sort of equally distributed, but it looks like most of them are 60 to 100. Tacoma's, there's one at sort of the middle area, and then a few under 10. I'm wondering what leads to that kind of extreme distribution in your mind. Some of them seem like pretty extreme out
Well, the three of them that are under 10%, the town of Clare, the town of Fowler, and Perishville. The town of Clare, I was the assessor there for a number of years, and it gets back to doing revaluation. If the town board does not want to disrupt things and do a revaluation, then it's not going to change. Fowler is much the same. There's nothing that the board wants to change. They will stay there. Harrisville, in this case, they're down to 5.3%. They're the only ones that are doing reval. They plan to.
And pardon my ignorance, but maybe it is the newer legislators myself. What kind of impact does that have, short-term and long-term, on residents of that town or city in our case and the county at large by putting off those revals?
Really not, maybe not a lot, because the equalization rate is a calculation from New York State. And through that, there's an apportionment done that makes these things, an apportionment does this back to full value, calculates this back to full value. So all the properties in a township that border one another and also the school districts, they're all factored in at 100% through their tax rate. And in a sense, they're still paying, paying their fair share. It's just that this sort of rights the ship when they do a reval to get them back to 100%. They're not really paying any less, is what I'm getting at.
Ms. Burke?
State, New York State, big winner with equalization. Because when they give the star exemption in half star, it's based upon thousands of dollars of assessed valuation. Inject the evaluation up. That means overall, the state is paying less money. And I think, again, I think that's why the state is so vigilant when it comes to equalization rates. They want to make sure that the money they pop up is going to be less. That's just my opinion.
Towns will receive a state aid back when they do a reval from New York State, and that has steadily dropped. It was $5 a parcel in recent years. It's down around $1.50 now. So when they do a reval, they can file for that. So that's a small stipend back for that town.
But the landowner, there is a little incentive at 100% valuation. But for the landowner, if the state is giving you an incentive of $35,000.
30,000 for the basic star, and in star is higher than typically twice basic star value.
So if they can double your assessment, the amount of dollars that it's decreased. Okay, good. Sorry, just a sore point.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. If you have legislators, Burke and Curran, we're encouraging Governor Hochul to sign Senate Bill S 1466 and Assembly Bill A 250A authorizing payments to non-participating, non-preferred providers of emergency medical services licensed under Article 30 of Public Health Law. Need a motion? Thank you. Ms. Curran.
So currently, when services are rendered by non-participating or non-preferred EMS providers in the state, their insurance companies get billed and the checks that come go directly to the patient who receives the services. So if I call the ambulance and I go for my foot and my insurance is not participating with them, I get the check for $1,500 for the ambulance services. And then I can either give it to the EMS agency to pick me up, or I can keep it and give it to my checking account. And many people choose to keep the check and add it to their checking account. When we were talking at NISAC, they were talking about patients where they actually go 4 times a month to the ER to get their check, sign out as soon as they get there, and never get medical care, but make their $1,500 check every week for transport. So this just asks, because EMS services are not being paid for because EMS across the state is having problems with finances, it asks that the governor sign this, and then the check would go directly to these agencies, whether they're participating or not. It would no longer go to the insured person, and the EMS people would get their money every time they transport somebody. I think it would help them a lot.
Question? Mr. Merrill?
I definitely support this. I'm just wondering, are the non-participating EMS providers able to bill the person that So they're billing and then they're just not getting paid.
Can I answer that?
Sorry.
You can always bill them, but in New York State, they can't put you to collections for the money. So it's kind of like, one of those things that's nice, but it costs you probably more to bill some of these people that go weekly.
Any other question? Mr. Nation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before, Doyle, I guess. This, I believe that this is similar to legislation that we have encouraged. In our action, when we went through all the.
This has made it on a few of our legislative agendas, absolutely.
Mr. Stein?
Yeah, so just to be clear, it said that they can bill, but they can't turn over the collections. But my question is, can they deny services for a patient that's non-payment?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so that makes it rather difficult if they can't deny services and they can't collect.
That's why they don't have any money.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next up, for legislative Perkins, he's out today. So this is for urging the New York State Legislator and Governor Hochul to draft and enact legislation regarding identification process for voters. Can I get a motion? Shanice, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Luke had reached out to me earlier today to speak to this. It's pretty much self-explanatory, just asking, make sure everyone that votes has proper ID. I think it's a national push. So I support the concept and hope everyone else does.
Yeah.
Thank you. When I read the resolution, I was a little confused by the ID because there are 5 levels of ID in the United States that are required. First one is a strict photo ID. That's it. Second is strict non-photo ID. Photo ID requested, and you're not turned away if you don't show it. ID requested, photo not required. And then no document, which at this point, New York State is at the voting booth, not when you register to vote. So I'm a little confused about what this resolution is asking. I'm also a little confused about why we're doing this. In-person voter fraud amounts to 0.00004% of any fraud. And of the, if we talk about mail-in ballots, there's where the problem is. But with that, there were 250 million votes cast. There were only 193 convictions. With those kind of odds, you're more likely to be struck by lightning. The other problem is there are 4. First one is to promote voter suppression, and we don't want that. We want all eligible people to vote. We don't want people who are eligible to not be able to vote. And the restrictive voting laws that are coming up in some states, and I'm not saying this resolution called for that, but they were enacted around the Jim Crow time after the Civil War. Amendments 13, 14, and 15 are all the Civil War remedy to the Constitution. The biggest groups that are disenfranchised by these kind of things are African Americans, Native Americans, low-income people, the elderly, and super rural places. I just had my license renewed. It was $94. That is expensive for a lot of people, and 18% of all people or citizens over the age of 65 don't have that. So that's a huge voting bloc. 18%, 16% of Latinos, 25% of Black voters, and 15% of low income voters lack acceptable photo ID. That's why it would be good to know what this is. Their financial burdens, obviously $94 is for an enhanced license, but that's expensive. Getting a ride, geographic isolation. Some people don't have a license because they're in the middle of a DWI. They've had their license taken away. People who have changed their name don't have a license or proper ID. They got married. They're denied voting because they can't show the proper name. College students. And I don't know what we would ask people at the ballot box to be the enforcers. We're on a slippery slope when we turn away eligible voters. I'd like to read a quote from the League of Women Voters. Our country was founded on the principle that we are all created equal, living up to that promise to provide all citizens with the same freedoms and opportunities. Means it is wrong to pass laws that deny eligible American voters to participate equal in our democracy. And of course, I mentioned the 15th Amendment. Another place to look where you can see what's required when we register to vote in New York is a site called Vote 411. And it delineates what you have to show just to register to vote. That takes it away from having to present an ID of the voter. I will not be supporting this because I think it disenfranchises the least among us who are not capable of paying the money that it would cost for specific IDs, or would fear that if they had to show an ID and they got to the voting booth that they'd be turned away. It's proven that this suppresses voting rather than encourages it. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Did you have a question to that though? Is there a question for Secretary?
I don't know if Mr. Forsythe can speak to what type of ID Mr. Perkins was requesting. That's why it's confusing because there's so many levels of
Understood.
depth in terms of IDs.
Mr.
Thank
Burke?
you very much.
I guess I'm very reluctant to encourage New York State to do anything that's more restrictive. We've all sat here and we've all heard how they infringed upon certain rights that we all enjoy in St. Lawrence County. And I guess I wonder, as we represent people in St. Lawrence, I don't know. Again, I think people that we represent probably don't need this legislation. We would hope that every other election would be as conscientious as St. Louis. I won't support it either for that reason. I don't want state.
We're in the middle of quite a political debate on whether people need to show their really who they are in order to vote or not. In St. Lawrence County, it is true that when we go in to vote, they might be our friends, neighbors, people that we see around town. They know who we are. I don't think that's the case throughout a lot of the rest of the state. Certainly voting is a right that citizens should be entitled to. However, I could go down through a long list of different activities that people are required to show identification. You can't even buy a drink without showing some proof of who you are. I think this is certainly something that's needed. There's a lot of discussion about the validity of different elections. Certainly in the last election, and it's something that crops up. I think just to give people more assurance that we have valid elections is worth going through the process of showing identification. I don't think it's a question of restricting people from voting. I think that's kind of a false narrative. So I'll definitely be supporting this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just kind of want to echo what Mr. Smith said. And also, in part, I agree with Mrs. Haggard. Voter fraud is very hard to prove, which pushes the conviction rate way down. It makes it look like it's less than it is. As far as a license, most people have a license or something of some sort. You have to show a license by ammunition, by alcohol, cigarettes, cannabis, registered car, board of plane, sign up for social services and food stamps. Everybody has an ID of some kind or another. You don't have to buy an enhanced license. You can buy you can go get a sheriff's ID or some kind of ID like that. Anybody that's afraid to be ID'd usually is hiding something. And I think this is very important, so we have a clear and legal election. And I'll be supporting this 100%, and I hope everybody else does too. Thank you.
Ms. Curran.
So I was just kind of making a list of all the different identifications I've had to show, prove to get some of the things that I carry around. I had to show my birth certificate and my license, and to get my tribal ID, even though I've been registered with the tribe since I showed up. I had to show my birth certificate and my license to get a US passport, which I have to board a plane, leave the country, come back to the country, get off my ship and get back on if I'm cruising. I had to show my birth certificate and my passport in order to get my NP license, and the DEA does all of this, plus your fingerprints, this way, ruled everything, and a background check that's probably this thick in order for me to write a prescription. So I think that voting is, and who ends up being our leaders, are much more important than whether or not I get a discount at BJ's, which I also had to show my license and stuff to get my card, go to work or any of the rest of that. The one thing I noticed that nobody ever wants positive identification for is to take my taxes out of my check every week.
Mr. Nish.
As far as the showing identification, I do not have a problem. Yes, you go into the local where I vote. The election inspectors know me. They know my wife, they know my family, they know 90% of the folks. But where it comes in, I guess it's the citizen versus resident. And that's huge. You know, citizens are the ones that have rights to vote. Residents don't. And I think about when I want to buy a box of ammunition. It's almost as bad as applying for a passport. To buy something is guaranteed me under the second. So someone asked me to provide my registration for the privilege of voting. I don't see a problem with that. And I think, I'm not sure who mentioned this, but if you have a problem with showing your identification, that probably shouldn't be there.
Ms. Curran.
And then just as an amendment, when I go down to vote at the tribe in their elections, I have to bring my New York State driver's license and my tribe.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Nice stuff. Favorite review committee, Ms. Doyle.
Yes,
Ms. Doyle. Sorry.
so you have a revised agenda on your desks this evening. We neglected to include two positions. One is before you due to resignation, one is before you due to retirement, along with the two that are on your agenda. So I ask Don to join us again to go over those. Our apologies. You have been gracious and given us terrific opportunity when there are what we call ripple effects due to a resignation that results in promotion throughout the department. And while by the title, these appeared to be that, they were not. So we apologize for the error there before you tonight, but we'll start with the first one under highway, which is the abolish and create bill. Don?
Thank you. This abolish and create for a fiscal manager is part of a reorganization at the department to make our titles, for one thing, more in line with the rest of the county and state government as far as that goes, as far as titles. The highway administration manager position is very specific, where a fiscal manager could be in any department and could provide opportunity for other individuals besides somebody within just highway to get a position. So it keeps it makes it in keeping with more of the civil service requirements. But the reason for the change, also another reason for the change, request for the change in the title, not in pay in any way, is that we have a reduction coming up and anticipated promotion of an individual that has already taken the civil service exam. Regional. Full background.
Questions?
I don't know whether to direct this question to you, Don, or to Ruth, or to Johnny. But I'm looking and seeing that.
Choice for supplying your home's needs. For the living room, Dartmouth has lately ordered butters over 250. Thank you. Our apologies.
That's okay. The, at least you sent me the sign. The,
Commercial.
not sure. Direct this to Johnny and Ruth or to Don. My question is, the salary is $61,829. Of the person leaving, it's going to be $61,211. And the solid waste crew leader that's we'll be voting on that or looking at next. The person leaving is at $61,400. It seems that our approach to attracting people with backgrounds in finance to oversee multi-million-dollar budgets are a little out of whack, at least in my opinion. Every so often, this board gets concerned about lack of policies on fiscal matters, on how much money there is that a department's taking in, who's keeping, and it just seems that we don't invest the dollars into what we need to attract people who are qualified to oversee multi-million-dollar budgets. And I know I've said that before, and I know other people have fits my thoughts, but I'm going to keep bringing it up because I think that there's a reason why we often don't know how much money we got coming in and where the money's going and how much we're being reimbursed and what is happening in some of our departments. And when there becomes a problem, we all look at everywhere except for ourselves. Because I believe that we are the cause of our inability to keep track of our financial house sometimes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Mr. Reagan wholeheartedly. Looking at there's kind of a brief description of what the movie is on. But think about, and this may be apples, the position in social services and open places. We're really having a lot of trouble dealing with very important. And say, what does this? Thank you.
I just want to know, there isn't a person leaving this job, right? This is a new position. Okay, so that was one of the things you mentioned. Where do you start? Where do you stop? I don't know what the salary is. I think this is a good start. 61 grand in St. Lawrence County is pretty good start for most people. You got a 4-year degree, some experience. We see it's for succession planning. So I like that concept. Let's see what happens. I think you'll get more applicants than you think, you know. I'm comfortable with it.
So to Mr. Reagan's point, extremely well taken, and we share your concerns. You may recall to Legislator Haggard's point, looked a few different times and a few different iterations at the social services position and have just concluded interviews for our director of finance in social services that is at a band 4. This position being requested is a band 3. And so it is on the management scale, which provides a range between 61 to 11 to the base, and it goes to 75, 190. And we are afforded in certain circumstances, depending on experience, depending on what they're bringing in with them, to move along that scale to improve upon the starting salary. But I would agree with your point, and I have some ideas that I won't share now, but that I'm working on to try and improve on what we deal with and the challenges we face. Any other questions on this one? Okay, it's okay, move to your revised agenda for the, I believe. So the first one in front of you, forget the agenda, it should say motor equipment and heavy equipment operators. The first one is motor equipment operators that Don will speak to.
Thank you. This motor equipment operator position at the Department of Highways is vacant due to a resignation. This individual took a position in the private sector. Motor equipment operators, for the most part, is our entry level position, except for the labor. It's the only have 2 laborers in the department. Then the rest of the entry levels are motor equipment operators. So this is an entry level position, but also does the snow plowing, other operations, construction projects in the summer. So can do anything from labor.
Question, Danielle?
On the person that left, obviously they had a CDL. They acquired the CDL while they were working for St. Lawrence County.
This individual, I believe that did not, that they had been with us for a while and had the CDL for a little while anyway, but because that was back in 2020 when this position was filled, so that was before we had that. So far, we've been pretty good at retaining the folks that have got their CDL. We are up to, I believe at this point, going on to our 9th person that we have got their CDL. So I believe we're at 8 right now, and I think number 9 is on the way.
Any other questions? Okay, on to the heavy equipment operator.
This vacancy is as a heavy equipment operator, which is the next step up from motor equipment operator, is into a retirement of a rather long-term employee department that is now retired. Heavy equipment operator does everything that the motor equipment operator does, and also grading paper itself, motor grader, dozers, rubber setting grade or something of that nature. So it requires a higher degree of accuracy and skill.
Okay, the last of our vacancies this evening and this month is solid waste with a site crew leader. Don?
Yes. The site crew leader position is due to actually the retirement of the senior site crew leader. And we have filled that internally and now has promoted a site crew leader to the senior site crew leader position, and now have resulted in this vacancy of site crew in the position. So.
Questions? Okay, take it down.
Thank you so much.
Next up is a short update for you on American Rescue Plan Act funds. I have 2 updates. One is a cautionary request, and the second is to let you know our first payment to one of our broadband contractors is being reviewed now for payment. That is the Adirondack Tax LLC. Submitted work in the amount of $101,163. I think that's our first movement forward on getting broadband money spent, which we're very excited about. Secondly, I wanted to let you know that as we believe the next 9 to 12 months are going to be extraordinary as far as the spend goes as we approach some of the timelines. The Treasurer's Office is reviewing the workload associated with reporting. They've just undergone a renewal of the fact that we exist as a county, federal government, and that was harder to prove than you'd imagine. So in doing so, but there is an extraordinary amount of work that goes into the reporting component of the ARPA funds. And we all know that beyond just collection of invoices, there's also the narrative and which categories they fit into. And they're coming up against concerns in and around being able to do and carry that workload. And if you remember at the onset of receiving these funds, we talked about having either our auditors or someone to come in and assist us with that. So they have indicated an interest in putting that request forward. So we're going to take a look at that. You may see us convening the ARPA committee to have that discussion and to bring forward either to extend the work of our existing auditors or to look for someone to assist with that. Are there any objections to us taking a look at having that type of assistance? Certainly better, in my opinion, to do that on the front end than to do it on an audit. Okay, so that is the ARPA update for this month. There are 3 resolutions that I would be fine to do first, if you'd like. The first one is modifying the 2023 budget for the County Administrator's Office for costs associated with document management.
Motion. Second, Mr. Smith, thank you.
So this resolution, you've seen a couple of these this year, comes before you. You'll recall last month we moved $7,020, I believe, for the probation department. They undertook and probably are our heaviest users of the document management, both for imaging and then for shredding. You may recall that social services has their own, and I think that was one of the questions posed last time about having our own shredding opportunities in-house. Currently, we pay for that to be done. And so we moved, there's a document management line, 43006 line in the B1 of the county administrator's budget. That is where we place all of the funds. So for several years, there was a few thousand here, a few thousand there in departments. And some years we found departments were very active in records management and able to do all of their imaging and shredding. Other years we found they weren't as able. And so those funds would be returned to fund balance and then budgeted again. And so we had the conversation probably going on 10 years ago now to consolidate those into one budget line. And because you authorized me to make transfers to departments, I'm able to, as departments actually do this, and I report out to you the following meeting, share with you those totals every time that happens. So this year we saw a much bigger bill with probation, and that was that $7,000 bill, not realizing that all of those other transfers to departments had depleted that account. So between cleaning up that $7,000 bill and looking toward the end of the year, our hope is that the $12,500 we're requesting be moved from contingency will cover.
What would it cost the county to invest in a shredder capable of taking care of what our needs are? I mean, we spent $9,000 to cut license plates in half.
I can find out that information.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting. It's too bad we couldn't have gotten a multifunction machine that would do license plates and papers. Yeah. I digress.
This is for that.
Remember, we got the cordless microphones first before you go to light fix. So.
Fair point, fair point.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next up, I'll ask our buildings and ground supervisor, Joe Preshaw, who I think most of you have met at this point. Joe has transitioned from part-time to full-time. He is going to be mostly focused on our public safety complex project, but he's also agreed to take on this project, which we bid out, you may recall, last November. And in looking at our approach to when this would be done, when we were looking at the bids, our interest was in being able to have a delay in getting the work done. I'll pause for. So I asked Joe to join us tonight and talk about what the project will entail.
So purpose of this project is to replace the EPDM roof on the old jail and the asphalt shingle roof on the sheriff's house. On the jail, we'll be tearing out the EPDM down to the deck and inspecting the deck to make sure there's no rot. If there is, it'll be repaired. There's a mechanical, obsolete mechanical systems and fixtures no longer being used on the roof that will be taken down, and the penetrations will be sealed. There's an energy recovery unit, a cooling tower and fence, exhaust fans, steel radio tower with guy wires, electrical conduits and boxes, gas lines, and ductwork. The existing aluminum coping that sits on top of the parapet all around will be removed. The new EPDM roof is a 0.060 inch roof. I believe it's a 15-year warranty. New crickets will be installed to make sure the water is drained properly off the roof. New coping cap will be put on that, which is put on, and there'll be caulk all existing exterior doors and window openings. The sheriff's house, the asphalt shingles will be removed. There's tar paper underneath it, so they'll be taking that down to the deck and putting water and ice shield down over the entire roof. And then a steel shingle, slate look steel shingle will be installed, make it period correct for a historic building. The front porch, there's 4 columns that hold up the porch roof. They've collapsed pretty much.
The existing will be removed, 3 of them can be saved, will be painted, put back on the timber part of the post. One of them is too deteriorated and not be replaced. All the stonework for those piers will be removed and numbered, so they go back in the exact same spot. So they'll take those out, and jack up the roof to support it, or new piers underneath all 4 of them, and then I'll reassemble to look original.
So we were successful in receiving 2 bids, and with the delay in providing the award to the bid, spoken with both bidders about preserving their prices, and they have agreed. We now will be working, if the board supports our request and allows this project to go forward. This, in our minds, beyond the hazardous study, I think we did hazardous material study probably 10 years ago now. This is the first step in moving toward the repurpose of this facility. Questions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on, is there any need for oh, you're still in the seat? Sorry about that. No. Sorry for going over your.
That's okay. Last one is modifying the 2023 budget, architectural and design services for public safety complex renovation project.
Your motion? Tanisha, second by Sundar, thank you.
So as you're all aware, we have with great anticipation waited to get these bids on the street and anticipating that all the architectural services would be rolled into the cost once we're moved to award bids. We are very close.
Very good.
Last Friday and today went for the last review that we're told to make sure that it's right before it goes on the street. That will save us addendums upon addendums as we move forward with this project. That being said, though, we continue to have the services both of Nice Tech, which you've already approved in resolution, which was described in the resolution before you, as well as Beardsley. So you have the totals of what's been spent so far. This will help us clean up the capital project and pay outstanding bills that we have today.
Questions? Tanisha?
Not so much a question, but just a statement. And Ruth, you mentioned it about taking us longer than any of us would have liked. But Joe has been, you know, I don't know how we would have gotten through this without your assistance. But what it's done, taking so long to do this is going to eliminate a plethora of change orders. Hopefully. Hopefully. You know, change orders can greatly affect the scope of the project from timeliness to cost. And so I know this has been, and I've been a little bit aggravated because it's taken us so long to get where we are. But it was for good reason, and I think we're in a good place. So I would urge everyone to continue to support this project.
Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Manisha Rossborough's campaign slogan, measured twice, cut once. I agree wholeheartedly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just a couple of other items to provide you with an update. This week on Wednesday morning, I will attend the St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES Superintendent meeting with Commissioner Seaver. He will introduce himself to the group and have an opportunity to describe both what he's been up to for this first year of his term, as well as talk about opportunities and his vision for going forward. I look forward to that opportunity. I wanted to let you know that our snowmobile grant that you're all familiar with is being audited, I believe for the years 2021 and 2022. So as you'll all recall, that was when we switched to contracts and separated those out a bit. So planning is working through that. We have our contracts that we're providing, and they'll collect the information being requested. The committee to review the arming of probation officers met last week for the second time, reviewed the potential for a draft survey, discussed the methods for reviewing both case law, history in other counties, And we finalized the survey that will go out tomorrow and be requested to be returned by October 6th. We're providing several options for folks to return the survey, and we'll convene again on October 12th to review the responses and determine next steps. I wanted to let you know that 2 departments are engaging with new universities than we have in the past. Public health for internship, externship type opportunities. Public health is engaging the BSN program at SUNY Plattsburgh, and they will actually be taking on an intern who will do their preceptor work with us. And also our public defender's office is engaging with an externship opportunity with Syracuse Law School. And as long as there's no objection, I'd like to add a resolution. We have the affiliate agreements for internships. We'd like to bring you one for externships, in this case for a similar setup. So I would add that if there's no objection to the board meeting. And then lastly, I wanted just to call to your attention great participation with the initiative that the Suicide Awareness Coalition held over the last week with the Chalk the Walk, Messages of Hope. Lots of sidewalks around the Court Street campus were decorated. It even included the correctional facility. Very happy to see positive messages and share images and words. Already looking forward to next year. We're very grateful for the opportunity, and you may have even seen Kelly in my drawings as you entered this evening. So any questions for me? That's all I have.
Excellent. Is there any old business? Any new business? Zach.
As many of you may know, we lost 2 more FDNY responders to Ground Zero today, which brings the number of Fire Department of New York members to a number higher than the number that were lost on that day, 9/11/2001. They died from the after effects of that horrible day. And I just want to express my gratitude, and I'm sure you'll join with me in appreciating the bravery and sacrifice that these people made, as well as all of our first responders, our volunteer fire people who put themselves. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. When I was coming back from NISAC, caught a blurb on the radio quick, and can we check and make sure it seems to me Syracuse University increased their funding to Onondaga County, like $4.1 million sticks in my brain, in lieu of taxes. Can we see if that was what I heard was correct? All right.
Yep. Moving on to committee reports. First up, we have Mr. Nisha with the Cornell Cooperative Extension Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Cornell Cooperative Extension Board of Directors met on Thursday, September 21. We were provided a copy of the Cooperative Extension County Audit 2022 by Germany, Burke and Brown CPAs. No findings. It was great. You know, it's the second audit report we've heard in the last couple of months. Annual dinner is October 19th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at the Cooperative Extension Farm. And just quickly, I want to give a quick overview on 4-H. Northwind Farm Day Camp flourished this past summer. There were a total of 363 enrollments in the day camp programs. There were 7 full scholarships that were provided to families that couldn't financially afford to send their children. And just some of the highlights on Cooperative Extension 4-H continues to do. Winter break specials, SUNY Canton Vet Science in the spring, ages 13 to 18. There were maple and farm tours this year. I don't know if anyone has availed themselves of the local foods weekend that we had. Was well attended. Shooting sports. 4-H is a great advocate for the shooting sports. Monthly activity nights, dairy programs, dairy bowl, dairy camp, equine clinics. County fair, state fair, and Hammond fair participation. The county fair was really a highlight this year. There were, I've heard from a number of folks that there were more animals, more than there had been in years. Public presentations, but it's, yeah, our next meeting is 26th.
Was that October 26th? Excellent, thank you. Next up, Mr. Sheridan, Fish and Wildlife Management Board, Region 6.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the board will meet again on the 28th of this month. We haven't met in a while, but the 28th will be the day.
Sir. Mr. Morelli for the Fisheries and Advisory Board.
There's no update. We haven't met since my last report. Our next meeting is on October 24th. At 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Mr. Smithers, the Governor Fair Board.
Thank you. As Legislator Denisha said, all reports were that it was successful, well-attended, many animals. It was profitable this year. I can give you some figures. Total expenses were 317. This is to date as far as the most recent report. $317,357.54 expenses, and fair income $324,364. Other income $19,767.06. They sustained some lightning damage. There were some electrical improvements this year. They auctioned off some excess items. Governor School is interested in purchasing some of the land for new football stadium, but there didn't seem to be much positive response from the fair board as far as that goes. So we're not sure where that's going to end up. Season storage for boats and RVs has begun. The last weekend they had a pumpkin festival that was well attended. The weather was great. Haven't got any final report from that yet.
Sticking with you, sir, the Highway and Solid Waste Committee.
In addition to what our highway superintendent said, about the only thing I can add is that our plowing contract, which we approved, has been returned by all of the towns that we deal with the exception of Edwards, which has given us a verbal commitment, and we're expecting that to be returned shortly.
In our earlier discussion with the highway superintendent and the solid waste that is under his jurisdiction, we got a figure that was quite nebulous as to what this gentleman that owns a trash hauler business is indebted to the county for. I guess what I'd like to know, and there was a mention that this person was paying an amount over and above what the cost of the current load going in was, but there was no figure attached to it. Neither was there a time frame as to when the payments would, how frequent they would be, how much they would be, how long they would last, how long it would take to exhaust the amount of money that is owing and due to the county. So I'm just wondering if we could see something like that. And if there isn't anything in the form of an agreement that, number one, this person does owe the money. Number two, that they agree to pay it. And number three, they set up a schedule on how they're going to do it rather than just, well, they're putting so much down or whatever it was. And we don't even know what that is. So if we could get that information, I would be very happy to see it, because I don't know how we got in such trouble with this, to be honest with you. This is terrible.
the administrator and I.
Thank you. Mr. Regan, anything for the Industrial Development Agency?
No report, Mr. Chair. The IDA will be meeting tomorrow.
Mr. Webster, Recreational and Trails Advisory.
Apologize, they don't.
Mr. Forsyth, the St. Lawrence River Valley Redevelopment Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing to report since the last, we haven't had a meeting.
First, the St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce.
Yep. They've been very busy. They got a lot going on. Their mergers went well. They've got over 60 new businesses signed up. On September 23rd, this last Saturday, they had a open air market, crafts and food. They had over steam museum in Matter. They had over 2,500 people show up for it. They have a round table. It's going to be September 26th. It's going to be with Scott Gray at the Applewood Orchards, which is if anybody's interested in, hearing or stopping in or any ideas, they'd be more than welcome, the more the merrier. October 18th, they have the annual dinner at Staples at the Windy Point in Potsdam, St. Louis County, the county chamber. November 15th and the 3rd, they have some mixers going on, Governor and Augsburg, some of the new chambers, give everybody a chance to come in and kind of work together on stuff. And December 1st and 2nd, it's going to be a two-day craft and wine holiday market at Maxey Hall in Potsdam. They have over 120 to 150 vendors already signed up. That's going to be a pretty big thing. They're also meeting with Albert Lower and Augsburg with the Bolsons. Building trades, they're having like a mixer where businesses and stuff go in and can walk through and see them training and building and learning and basically what they're learning there, which may give them an idea that they'll have more people to look for when it comes hiring time at graduation, or maybe even a new avenue to get new employees and get young people out and working. So they have a lot going on and it's going good right now with them. It's going to wind down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Glenn, have you heard what they're gonna do? Like, we belong to the Augsburg Chamber of Commerce since I think 57. What are they gonna do with those memberships? They're gonna roll in automatically to St. Lawrence County Chamber? And
Yeah, they
is that
basically
actually,
they're trying to get a few people from all the chambers that have merged. They're adding a few from those chambers onto the board so that they have kind of an oversight from everybody.
okay,
And anybody that's, a lot of these chambers have kind of slowed down and not, dues and doing, things and stuff where the St. Louis County, they have more people with more things going on,
Yeah.
more oversight and more where they're, getting more people together to do things.
so I'll give them more notice and something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Last, we have the Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met last Thursday, 9/21. And we had the three main things that I'll report out are we had a report from Aaron, our forester. There are 3,900 trees that have been marked in Lisbon, Louisville, Madrid, Waddington, and Messina. We're in the process of evaluating bids for that work to be done. That's for the ARPA money. We had a discussion about the addition of methane and hydrogen digesters in the county, and we're drafting a letter to Mr. Jenner to find out about the safety and should the worst happen, what sort of response would be necessary for those. And lastly, if there happens to be, hopefully not, a government shutdown, our kind and generous county administrator has offered for soil and water to meet in this building because we now occupy the United States USDA building and they will be closed. So should that happen, Mrs. Joy has been very welcoming to have them here. I know this is happening. And that's it. Thank you.
Is there a need for executive session?
There is for negotiations, personnel, which is the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters relating to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and 2 appointments.
The motion to go into executive session. Mr. Collins, thank you. Motion carried. All those in favor? Aye.
Didn't get a picture of that. I should have.
Motion adjourned.
I think he's still working on my computer. I'll get it next week. Okay.